She was looking forward to my visit here. She was looking forward to us all being together. She was just happy.
That was Stephan Sterns talking to detectives the day before he was charged with trying to destroy evidence that investigators said showed him sexually abusing Maddie Soto. Prosecutors would later charge Sterns with murdering Maddie. And now we're learning some stunning new details about what police claim Sterns' mother told them in the first days of the investigation. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. We've been digging into the Maddie Soto murder investigation for months, and now we've uncovered new information about what happened when detectives searched the home of Stephan Sterns' parents days after Maddie went missing. This information is even more surprising given some of the statements that Sterns' mother, Deborah, made in messages to her son in jail. We'll get into that in just a bit. But first, we have to go over the timeline. That's important here. Maddie was reported missing on the evening of February 26th when her mom went to pick her up at school and she didn't come out.
So she was supposed to be dropped off at school, didn't make it to school.
Didn't make it to school. I went to pick her up from school today, and she never came out. They announced it over the speaker, and I'm just like, maybe she walked here, because sometimes she'll walk here to this office. I came here, nothing. I went back to the school, they were closed. I got an email from the school saying she was absent, but I also messaged her teacher, and he looked at her entire attendance today and saw that she was completely not at school today either. So she never made it.
Jen Soto talked to the deputy for a few minutes, explaining what Maddie was wearing when she left for school.
Maddie Soto, age 13. I'm trying to get a clothing description now. What was she last seen wearing?
Green hoodie.
Green hoodie.
White Crocs.
White Crocs.
Either blue or black pants.
I think black shorts.
Black shorts?
Yeah.
Black shorts? Okay.
I always find that part of the interaction interesting because Jen Soto would later tell detectives that she didn't see Maddie before she left for school that morning, that she maybe heard her and Sterns getting ready to leave. Sterns was interviewed the morning after Maddie was reported missing. That was February 27th. And he told detectives about the last time that he saw Maddie.
I said, okay, let her out, have a good day, love you, thanks, love you too. And I turned around and was driving away and was watching her in my rearview mirror to make sure that she was going where she was supposed to go. And she was moving in that direction, but she was rummaging around in her backpack or something. What I assumed was probably headphones or something like that, but I found out later that she forgot her phone here, so she may have been rummaging for her phone. But she was still kind of making her way towards that direction, so it looked okay. It looked like any other day. And I just continued on.
Police and prosecutors would later say that statement was a lie and that Maddie was never dropped off at school the morning of February 26th.
Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephan Sterns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day.
Sheriff's officials also revealed that Sterns also drove with Maddie's dead body in the passenger seat of that silver Lincoln he was driving the morning of February 26th, and that he even returned to the complex where they lived.
We have video evidence that shows Stephan Sterns discarding items in a dumpster in that apartment complex in Kissimmee at 7:35 on Monday, February 26th. Detectives later recovered Madeline's backpack and her school-issued laptop from that dumpster.
Detectives in Kissimmee tracked Sterns' movements using license plate readers. They basically knew the route that he took when he left that morning. Even though he was a suspect in Maddie's disappearance early on, detectives still could not find her body. So they asked police to search the home of Sterns' parents in Northport, about 3 hours south of Kissimmee. That's the view of the house on Google Maps. You see the silver Lincoln in the driveway. The police reports from that search are interesting when it comes to Sterns' mother. Officer Fegan wrote, "On our arrival, we observed a female later identified as Deborah Sterns outside her residence and calling out for," the name is redacted. That name being redacted will become important in a moment. The report continues. Contact was eventually made with Deborah, who was very emotional during our initial interaction. Initially, Deborah only appeared to be upset by a torso she found in her son Stephan's room. Deborah would elaborate on this torso and described it as a sex doll. This was later determined to be a rubber/plastic sex toy found by Deborah when she was cleaning the room where Stephan had been staying. Deborah advised that Stephan was not here, but she believed he had returned to the property last night. So this was February 28th, the Wednesday of that week, around 10 o'clock at night. It would have been dark outside. Maddie was reported missing 2 nights earlier on February 26th. It was later divulged, the report says, by Deborah that she was awoken at exactly 3:19 hours this morning to her 5 dogs barking in a manner to alert her that someone was at the house. Deborah's husband, Stephan Sterns, was not at home last night as he had ventured to Orange County at approximately 2300 hours to assist their son, Stephan Sterns, with a recent housing crisis. Deborah Sterns then explained the reasons why she believes Stephan would have returned to their home almost 3 hours south of Kissimmee. One part is redacted from the report, but then it says she believes Stephan could have returned for cash that was kept within the home by her and Christopher. Deborah Sterns then told the officer that she took something from Stephan's bedroom, but that is also redacted from the report. The officers took photos of Stephan Sterns' bedroom to document the way that it looked. They searched his parents' home and said they found nothing of evidentiary value. Now, this was the same night that Stephan Sterns was taken into custody by Orange County Sheriff's deputies, after the sheriff said they discovered Sterns had tried to delete evidence from his phone. At the same time Sterns was being booked into the jail, Northport police wrote, Deborah expressed her disgust at the crimes her son is alleged to have committed and is hoping that, name redacted, it's safe to assume she means Maddie, is found alive. Deborah opined that these allegations worried her to the point that when she found the, quote, sex torso, she initially believed it to be real. This then led her to exit her residence and call out for name redacted. That would be, of course, Maddie. The officer and a detective wrote that Deborah Sterns was worried that Stephan had returned to her home early that morning when the dogs awoke her and they were barking, and that he may have put Maddie in the woods behind their house. Of course, the officers searched the area and did not find Maddie. Sterns had been living with his parents. This is why Sterns told police he went to Kissimmee that Sunday prior to see Maddie and her mom.
It's my parents' house. They're old and they need help these days, and they got a house full of poodles, and it's chaos. So I needed to come back up here and just get away from that. Between 2 deaf old people yelling at each other and poodles yapping all the time, it's enough to drive anyone up a wall. Just very happy to be back here.
That Sunday, Sterns drove his dad's silver Lincoln from his parents' home in Northport to the apartment where Maddie and her mom lived in Kissimmee. Less than 24 hours later, police said Maddie was dead after celebrating her 13th birthday with a party at her grandparents'. Hey, Crime Fix viewers, I want to tell you all about Wondery's awesome podcast, American Scandal. You can listen right now and explore the biggest political corruption scheme in U.S. history in the latest season, Teapot Dome. Using vivid and immersive storytelling, American Scandal retraces the bribes, players, and underhanded deals related to the Teapot Dome scandal. In 1922, newspapers reported that Secretary of the Interior Albert Fall had leased federally owned oil reserves to 2 of the nation's wealthiest oil barons, Edward Doheny and Harry Sinclair. The scandal, named after one of the oil reserves in Wyoming, would eventually send Sinclair to prison for contempt of Congress and jury tampering, and made Fall the first person ever convicted of a crime committed while serving in the U.S. cabinet. Follow American Scandal on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also binge this season American Scandal Teapot Dome early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus and by going to our link, wondery.fm/law&crime-fix. Maddie's body was found that Friday on March 1st on a property on Hickory Tree Road. She was in a fetal position between 2 trees and covered in grass. Deputies were led to that area by a man who called in a tip saying that he saw a silver Lincoln and a man changing a flat tire there that Monday. Sterns told police that he got a flat tire the day that Maddie disappeared. He claimed it happened after he dropped her off for school.
Do you remember what places you visited?
Yeah, Coliseum of Comics. Stopped by a couple Targets, and I was going to go to House Rules Games down by Oak and 192. But I didn't make it that far. I got a flat tire on the way.
Do you remember where you got your flat tire?
It was on 192. I pulled into over into one of those plazas somewhere. It's been about 10 years since I switched out a tire, though, so I made a lot of rookie mistakes and ended up pinning my thumb between the frame and the jack. Yeah, I'm lucky it's not a lot worse than it could have been.
Now, back to what Sterns' mother said about her son and being disgusted by the allegations and hoping that Maddie would be found alive. It's interesting given what Deborah Sterns wrote to Stephan in jail at the end of June. That message says, "I keep thinking about how you would not ever rat out a friend. It really made me mad, and I felt like you valued them over us when you let them get away with stuff. Don't be doing that again. We all know that Name Redacted was heavily involved in this, and I am disgusted that she is free and you are not, when this is not all your fault. You need to think about yourself more and her less. She sure isn't thinking of you and how she can help you right now. That whole family is willing to stay quiet and let you take the fall for everything. When you do that, you are hurting us too. Please get out of your head over this and start talking with your attorneys. This stuff is serious and you need to approach it as life and death, which it is. I think of the craziness that Name Redacted lived through with Name Redacted. Various partners, not a stable life at all for a child. I do pray for Name Redacted and for you daily." In that message, Deborah Sterns is clearly talking about Maddie and her mother, Jen Soto. Jen Soto has not been charged with any crimes related to Maddie's death or disappearance. I want to bring in Dave Ehrenberg. He is the state attorney for Palm Beach County. He is not involved in this case, though. Dave, your thoughts on this crazy police report that we read where Maddie Soto is missing and the cops go to search his parents' house and mom is outside yelling Maddie's name and saying she found a sex torso, what she thought was a sex torso in his bedroom.
Yeah, when I became a prosecutor, I never thought I'd be on a podcast talking about sex torsos, but here we are. This case is bizarre. It's disgusting. And according to the police report, it sounds like the mother, thought it was a real live body. And so that's why she called the police. She got all frantic. She realized then it was a sex torso, but she still didn't trust her son enough that she was calling out for Maddie. But the other part of the police reports we're learning, to me, that was really relevant was that she has always thought that there were others involved. I think perhaps that goes to more of the jail calls, but she's a big believer that the mother is the main culprit here. And, there's been a lot of talk on the internet that the mother should be arrested. But I think that if the police and prosecutors had enough evidence against the mother to charge her with a crime, they would have done so already.
Yeah, and we've been pretty clear about that. There's been a lot of speculation and suspicion because in the police reports, it does note that Jen Soto made some inconsistent statements, but that she faces no charges in this case. The police have said they have interviewed her. They've also said the investigation is ongoing. But it does seem, there is a difference here, Dave. We have mom, Deborah Sterns, the night that he is arrested for trying to allegedly delete photos of sexual abuse of Maddie off of his phone, out yelling for Maddie, thinking possibly that her son, she thinks that he hid her body in the woods behind the yard. She's fearful that this sex toy thing she found in the bedroom is a real torso. It almost sounds like she suspects her son did something to Maddie, but then later on, in June, you're right. She sends that message on the jail tablet saying basically that suggesting her son is taking the fall for other people. So what do you think about that? I mean, is she just trying to help her son out? Or as a prosecutor, how do you view that message and the difference there?
There are like different stages of grief. Well, here are different stages of being shocked that your son was involved in such a horrific crime. First, you want to be helpful and then you start to rally around your son to think that, get defensive. And you think that someone else should take the fall for this. There's someone else involved. She didn't quite say in the jail calls that you're innocent. She said that there's someone else who's more responsible, who could be of help. And she's, letting you hang out to dry. So these are different stages, different days, but the evidence is so overwhelming against Sterns. And now in Florida, you are eligible for the death penalty, not just for murdering someone, but for sexual assault on a child, which is what is being charged here. So he could get it either way. There's nothing good that's going to happen to him. And even if the mother is eventually prosecuted in this case, he's not going to get a break to turn on her because this guy is already facing the maximum penalty. They're not going to let their foot off the gas and not seek the death penalty against him because what he allegedly did is so horrific. It doesn't matter who else he tries to implicate.
The allegations are horrific. He is innocent until proven guilty. He enjoys the presumption of innocence. But everything that we've read through the police records and, the court documents, it's absolutely horrifying the life that Maddie Soto, a 13-year-old girl, just turned 13, was living. There's almost a suggestion by Sterns' mother that other men had abused Maddie, even though Sterns, it appears, had been dating Jen Soto off and on for many years. So what do you think about that? Because the police have said the investigation's ongoing. Do you think that possibly maybe there's some truth to that? Because the police, when the prosecutor and the police have said the investigation's not over, it's ongoing, maybe that's what they're referring to potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, I did take the police comments to mean that they are searching for more evidence to see if there's others involved or whether the mother was so neglectful that she should be charged with child neglect. She's the one, after all, who allowed her daughter to sleep in the same bed in another room with Sterns. And if it's proven, or at least if it's shown with some evidence, that there are other men involved, then I think it's much more likely that the mother gets charged. But you're right. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, and the mother hasn't even been charged yet. But this investigation is ongoing. I suspect we'll see some more evidence. Don't know which way it's going to go against the mother or against Sterns, but we're going to see some more evidence come out that we don't know of yet.
Interesting. They were leaving no stone unturned. It seemed like many law enforcement agencies were working together. They even searched a storage unit down there in Northport. This is almost 3 hours south of Kissimmee, Orlando area. And so they were looking everywhere for Maddie's body because they couldn't find it.
Yeah, well, they also knew that Sterns had visited that storage unit while the investigation was still going on. He had visited for a short period of time, I believe for 10 minutes. He got his way in there, even though it was not his storage unit, it was his father's. But we don't know what they found in there, if that was something that can be used against Sterns. But yeah, the police, this is a high profile case, and police know it, and they're taking their time because they don't want to make a mistake. They've got this guy behind bars, and they don't want to start the speedy trial clock under the state law against the mother by charging her too soon. If you charge her too soon before you got the goods, then you gotta get her on trial before perhaps prosecutors are ready, and that is a danger. So I respect what law enforcement is doing. They are being meticulous. They are getting all the evidence, knowing that if they act too soon, then time won't be on their side.
Yeah, and they did. They said they didn't really find anything of evidentiary value in the storage unit. They did take swabs, though. They found a keychain with like a picture of a young girl and some other items. They also see some computers and things like that. So I'm sure there'll be some evidence found on there. Dave Ehrenberg, thank you so much.
Thanks, Angenette. Great to be with you.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.